quarterback battle rages on. I'm Ryan Aber from newsok.com here with Jason Kersey after the OU spring game. Jason, the thing everybody wanted to see today was how the quarterbacks, Trevor Knight, Baker Mayfield, Cody Thomas, and Justice Hansen performed. What'd you think overall?
Well, it was sort of tough to get too much of a gauge on it. It's tough to say what's going to happen at this point. I really think, based on today, you've got to think that it could be either one of the three of Baker Mayfield, Cody Thomas, or Trevor Knight. Seemed like Justice Hansen was sort of clearly the fourth option. So at this point, I think you'd have to say it's one of those three. All three made mistakes. All three threw interceptions. And not to mention, you didn't really get a full glimpse at the offense. They didn't go very fast. That's a staple of Lincoln Riley's offense, is to go fast, and they didn't really go fast. So it's really hard to say at this point. I'm not so sure we learned much more than we knew before, frankly.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Baker Mayfield, I think, was a guy that a lot of people really look forward to seeing in Lincoln Riley's offense. Like you said, we didn't see the tempo with that. We didn't see a lot of the things that make the air raid. But Baker Mayfield made a lot of good throws, made some bad decisions as well, though.
He did, but you wonder how much of that you can chalk up to the fact that this guy hasn't played in a situation like this since the last spring game. And when you add the fans, everybody wants to make a big play. So you sort of maybe chalk some of that up to the fact that they're trying to make big plays in front of fans. I think you could say that about all three of them. I think that's less of an excuse with Trevor Knight because he's got so much experience. But with Baker Mayfield, yeah, this guy hasn't played in front of fans in a year. In literally a year, yeah.
And another couple players that people were looking forward to see are the stars of this team offensively last year. Sterling Shepard, the wide receiver, Samaje Perine, the running back. Didn't see a whole lot of either of those guys today.
No, Samaje Perine more the old Adrian Peterson jersey with blue numbers saying don't hit him. So that takes everything out of watching Samaje Perine play because the whole, everything that he does well sort of centers around him running into people. And if he's not running into people, then you're not really going to see a whole lot. Alex Ross played. Daniel Brooks played probably a lot more than he's going to play in the fall. And then obviously Joe Mixon and Keith Ford weren't out there at all. So that's another element of the offense you don't really get to see all that much of. Yeah,
I thought it was funny after the game that Bob Stoops said putting Samaje Perine in the blue jersey was for other players' protection as much as it was for Samaje's because of the damage that he can do making contact with those guys.
Yeah, and the whole point of this, I think for Bob Stoops is to get out of here without any injuries, and they seem to do that.
And defensively, I think the biggest change that we saw today is Mike Stoops called the game from the press box, wasn't on the sidelines. They talked about the communication betterment that has resulted from that move. And also the secondary guys, the safeties, struggled to complete interceptions a year ago. A couple of those guys, especially Hatari Bird, came up and were able to hold on to the ball today.
Yeah, and I think that was encouraging. One thing, though, to keep an eye on is just the depth. The second-team defense was playing with 2 and 3 walk-on safeties. The first-team guys, obviously, Stephen Parker, Hatari Bird, Ahmad Thomas, those guys, looked pretty good. But the concern is depth there, and that's why they signed 3 freshman safeties that are going to be coming in the summer. I think all 3 of those guys are going to have to contribute immediately because otherwise you're going to have walk-ons out there, and that we saw sort of what can happen in that situation.
And after the game, Sooners players and coaches talked about Saturday's performance.
Probably had a few too many turnovers, not probably did offensively. But again, all those guys will learn from it. Again, I thought, overall, both sides of the ball and assignment and disciplines and assignment, those kind of things was really pretty good. Again, I'm pleased with it. And some guys that you wanted to see play better that I've talked about all spring that have made some progress. I thought young guys in the secondary, 2 freshmen in particular, Stephen Parker's had a great spring. He's playing like a senior, and JT, Jordan Thomas, has really improved in a strong way here in the last 3 weeks.
After meeting with Coach Stoops, we decided that, with it being year 1 of the offense, that we wanted to be even maybe more vanilla than we would have been otherwise, and keep some things under the belt. I'm very confident, scheme-wise where we're headed. I think we've made a lot of strides. One thing that we do here in practice that's a little different to me is we get so many more team reps than I've ever been a part of. I think just last Wednesday we had 75 team reps, which is like a scrimmage. We've been going in the stadium. We've been putting on the headsets. We've been, really getting a lot of good game simulation. Our guys have performed well enough that we felt pretty confident going into this that we could rest the guys that needed to rest, that we could be very vanilla.
Personally, I have a lot of stuff to work on. Just another practice that we have to get through, but decision-making wise wasn't my best day, but just got to get the ball into the players' hands. And when I did that, they made plays for me. So other than that, just got to improve on just getting the ball in their hands. Everybody's getting out there in front of a lot of people for the first time again. Everybody's kind of jittery, but you got to settle in, and that's what we talked about at halftime for that 5-minute break or whatever it was settle in and just do the stuff we had been doing before the fans were there, and we settled in the last half and no turnovers, so that showed a difference there. I love taking my shots. When you have one-on-one matchups, you have to take your chances, or else you can't have nothing else. But there's times I need to hold back, and it showed today where I turned the ball over, just threw it up and made some bad choices. But I'm going to take my shots, and I did. Jeffrey Mead made a play for me. For example, he had the one-handed catch. Nick Basquin had a long go ball catch. I'm going to take my chances, and I'm going to give the receivers a chance to make a play, and that's why they're here.
Starting off pretty quick there, getting the ball in the end zone was big. Overall, I think we played well. Just with our routine plays, dinking and dunking. Some of the bigger plays, I felt like we forced it a little bit. But I think, that's a big deal for us. This was a big day for us. As far as execution goes, not really. But as far as a learning moment for all of us, not just QBs, it was big. It's going to be something that we can look back on when the fall comes, when that first scrimmage comes, and look back and think, okay, once the fans get in there and once you get a little adrenaline going, that's when you got to be even keel. And so it was a good learning point for us today.
Big play mistakes a year ago were not had nothing to do with talent. It had more to do with assignments, responsibility, execution. We feel like we have a lot of talented players, and certainly in the secondary, we feel like this group is very talented. The first group, I'm saying, is it's a group that has experience now, playing together. I think working together with Coach Cooks day in and day out, and myself, I think we're starting to build some continuity. We were very generic today, and a base. Odd front and a base even front. We wanted to be very vanilla, but again, it still gets down to playing football. For us at any position, it gets down to technique, it gets down to execution, it gets down to position on the football, and that's where we failed, ourselves a year ago.